Troy, and welcome to another edition of Hunkered Vegans. We just watched the news and we've got 127 new cases in Philadelphia, and we're up to 475 folks who've tested positive for coronavirus. These are tough times, and I don't make light of that at all. We closed our business immediately when the city asked us to do that, and we had spent several days prior to that bleaching every surface and trying to take care of the folks that we're fortunate enough to serve. I just wanted to talk for a moment about why I follow a plant-based diet. And while we called this Hunkered Vegans because we thought it was cute, I sometimes hesitate to use the word vegan because it can be off-putting for a lot of folks. We follow a plant-based diet for our health. Eventually these videos will include Tara, who is my chef partner in crime, who has worked on recipes with me for the last 2 years and is an integral part of SawTown Tavern. She's also sheltered in place right now, so I'm doing these videos solo with Charles, my partner and cameraman, and you know, I started eating a plant-based diet because just being vegetarian wasn't having a profound enough effect on my health. And for me, in particular, that was depression. And eating a plant-based diet, in particular, eliminating dairy, just raised the floor and made a big difference in my day-to-day existence. And for Tara, and it is certainly her story to share, she has battled with multiple autoimmune issues and has seen a profound impact by changing her diet. So that's why we're so passionate about a plant-based diet and making it accessible to our friends and our neighbors, and you know, trying to also make it fun. So we love to recreate familiar flavors and textures. We like to keep the food approachable and fun, and it happens to be plant-based. That's what we do, and it's possible to eat well. So thanks for listening to that. That's why we do what we do. That's why when we hope that once we can safely reopen, we will be able to staff back up here and serve you a plant-based menu that will also hopefully serve you well. And you know, as we all think about our immune systems, I will say I am healthier with a plant-based diet. And that's why I'd like you to try, because every meal that we replace is a meal that's better for our bodies, better for our planet, just better. So today, we're gonna make a simple brunch of peppers and eggs, one of my favorite things growing up. Usually my grandmother used frying peppers out of the garden, but green peppers certainly often in order, green or red. She did it with bell peppers, she did it with frying peppers, but it was always a fast, delicious sandwich, and often it was dinner. We had a lot of breakfast for dinner. I didn't know that people ate creamed chipped beef on toast for breakfast until I was an adult, because it was a dinner my grandmother put in front of us often. So we're gonna make peppers and eggs, and we don't use eggs. So I'm gonna show you how to take a block of tofu, and with a couple of spices, you've got an egg sandwich, and it's really pretty terrific. And I'm gonna make a simple kale salad to put beside it. So let's go into the kitchen. So it should go without saying, but one of the most important things you can do right now is keep washing your hands. Wash them thoroughly, wash them often, particularly if you're going to handle food, particularly before you eat, obviously after you use the restroom. You know, it's one of the most important things that we can do right now to keep from sharing this virus with one another. And I just want to make the point before I start handling any of the food that I'm about to handle. I'm not going to use up my vinyl gloves right now. I've got no cuts on my hands or anything like that. So gloves are a precious commodity. And this is, this is basically home cooking right now. So this is me cooking for my loved one. So otherwise, if we were in food service right now, bet your ass I'd have gloves on. We're gonna start to cook. So I'm gonna start this really simple salad. I took a bunch of kale, I've chopped it up, and I'm gonna show you something. If you've ever had ceviche, that is the process where normally seafood is cooked with an acid, generally lemon. But lemon, vinegar, any acid can actually cook food. So whenever I use raw kale, I always do a ceviche. And what that means is I take the juice of a lemon, hopefully without the seeds. Usually 1 lemon to a bunch of kale. This is just a quick trick. If you squeeze over your palm, then any seeds you do have will stay out of your food. If you've got a squeezer thingy, use it. Right now I don't. So, just letting the lemon juice go in and keeping the seeds out. And then what we're going to do is massage the kale. Just take the lemon and massage it gently through the kale. I'm telling you, this is magic. It takes some of the bitterness out of the kale. It basically, gives it a nice light cooking. It makes it more tender, much more accessible and delicious in a salad. Charles can attest, he's had it plenty of times, and it really changes the kale. And kale is a fantastic green. It's great for you, but I remember when I was little, it was always a garnish, and it was called bunny food, and there was nothing my grandmother ever put kale in, but that was then. So we're going to just do this, and I'm going to set it aside. This is going to be the base of our salad. And we're going to let that do its thing, and we're going to use up the greens I have from the other night when I made a salad, because right now they're fresh. And this is really about, someone had commented on our first video about using things that you have. And I hope that I'm making that point. We're not really using recipes. I'm giving you some proportions, but I'm using the things that are here in the kitchen. And if I don't have them, I'm omitting them. And I'm mentioning to you that, if I had this, I would put it in, but right now I don't, so I didn't. I've got a half of a green pepper and a whole red pepper, so that's what we're using to make our peppers and eggs. Really, cook with what you have. This is about cooking. This is about feeding yourselves and your loved ones, and the fact that you can have really familiar flavors and really comforting food that is accidentally vegan, sometimes obviously intentionally vegan. But definitely it's a plant-based meal, and it's still comforting food. So we're going to move on. So, salad we're putting aside for the moment. We're going to do peppers and eggs. I'm not going to bore you with the chopping, but I'm basically doing about a pepper and a half and 1 simple yellow onion, and we're going to fry that up for our peppers and eggs. And then our egg is tofu. I use extra firm. That's pretty much all I buy. I buy several packages of extra firm tofu at a time. If you've not cooked with it before, maybe revisit it. It's great in a scramble. It really does replace the eggs. I'm going to show you one little trick that you can possibly do or not do as we season up the tofu to put it in the eggs. Okay. When you open tofu, it comes packed in water. Just like that. Now, in other recipes, we're going to talk about
This is just some kale I have left on my hands. In other recipes, we're going to talk about pressing tofu. For this particular application, it's really not necessary. The water's going to cook out of it. We're just going to crumble this up anyway. But I'm squeezing it a little bit just to get all of the juice out of it. Again, tofu for human consumption is always organic. It's always GMO free. It's always edible. It's wonderful for you. Do some research if you don't think so. That's all I can tell you. We use it a lot, and I find it healthy. If you have a soy sensitivity or an allergy, obviously don't. Then this recipe's not for you. And make some that are. We drained 1 block of extra firm tofu. Now, here's where we talk about all the things you can do with this. Turmeric is an important element primarily for color. If you have it, great. If you don't, it's not necessary, but it will give us, much more the egg color. Up to about a teaspoon, no more than that, for a block of tofu. I have also used curry powder, which is a great mix of spices, also includes the turmeric and other things. Great seasoning, depending on the direction you want to go. We're doing an Italian sausage and peppers and eggs, and so I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to use the turmeric, and I'm going to use a generous half of a teaspoon just for color. Now, here is my secret ingredient. Here's the ingredient you probably don't have in your pantry, but if you're going to be making this a lot, I suggest you get it. And that's Indian black salt. It's also Kala Namak. This is not, or Kala Namak. This is not Himalayan pink salt or black salt, which is really just a fancy finishing salt. This actually has a sulfuric smell, which is very much like eggs, and it really does impart the egg flavor in anything that you're doing. One of the things I like to make are I take new potatoes and basically turn them into a deviled egg with some hummus, and I season them like eggs with the black salt. Now, if you go to an Indian grocery store, $1.49. You can buy this in a fancy gourmet shop for $7 for a tiny container about this size, or you can, find, if you're lucky enough to have a local Indian grocery store as we do, and really this is 100 grams, which is 3.5 ounces, $1.50. It's cheap as anything. We use a teaspoon for a block of tofu, and I'm also going to add a little salt to this as well. But when I tell you this will impart the egg flavor, this is the secret to a great tofu scramble. I'm still going to add a little bit of salt, not as much as I might have. A little bit of kosher salt. And black pepper. Now we're also going to salt and pepper the, I like a lot of pepper. I'm going to put, you can either use a touch of vegetable stock or a touch of oil just to mix this up. I'm going to just toss it with a little touch of oil, probably about a teaspoon, just to get that well coated. And that's it. I mean, that's the seasoning. And you'll see it take on the color. You can add a little paprika, you can add a little Italian seasoning, you can do huevos rancheros and add some cumin to this, and chili powder. You can really get creative with this. I'm keeping it simple. That was about a half of a teaspoon. I think I'm going to add maybe another quarter teaspoon just to get a little more yellow color going. And that'll be that. And then that'll be the last thing that we add to our sausage and peppers. There we go. Peppers and eggs. Peppers and eggs. I keep saying sausage and peppers, which we've done. We've done a vegan version, and it's terrific. And depending on how many days we're filming these things, that may be for dinner soon. But right now, we're doing peppers and eggs. Thank you for the correction. And we're going to go over, and we're going to drop these babies in the frying pan. It's going to be a quick 1 1 skillet meal, a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, in a nice hot pan. Throw in the peppers and onions. Salt those up. Puff some sweat. I like to add a little bit of Italian seasoning when I do this, not a lot, just a sprinkle. Toss these around. All you're doing with the tofu is heating it up. So once these are good and done, that's when we add in our tofu. We're going to just fry some peppers and onions. You want to toss a little garlic powder in here, do so. You never have too much garlic, according to Nanny. Let these start frying. Let's work on throwing our salad together. So honestly, this is not a recipe. This is what happens to be fresh in the refrigerator that I want to use up because it's here before it goes bad. So here's our kale. You'll notice it's gotten a much brighter color with the addition of the lemon juice. It's much more tender and delicious. I've got some spring mix I'm going to add to that. Finish up my carton of spring mix here. I've got some arugula. I'm not going to use all of this because I've got some other things I want to do with it, but I'm going to throw some arugula in there as well. There's our greens. Now to that, I had a nice carton of heirloom cherry tomatoes that I've just cut in half, an English cucumber that I have quartered and chopped, and a can of garbanzo beans. Now, save the liquid. The liquid that garbanzo beans is packed in is aquafaba. We use it as an egg replacer. Doesn't matter for this recipe. We just put it in a jar in the refrigerator, but save the liquid from garbanzo beans. It's really useful in vegan cooking. Then I just drained. Once it was drained, I rinsed the garbanzo beans. So this is our salad. Now I'm going to toss it up right before we eat, and I'm going to do an Aunt Dot salad. So my Aunt Dot, who is I'm not going to tell you her age, but Nanny taught me how to cook, and Nanny was Aunt Dot's mother. They didn't cook the same at all. While my mother made a lot of the Hungarian recipes, Aunt Dot was a very modern housewife of the early '60s, and she loved McCall's magazine, and she loved the different recipes that were, coming at that point in time. She got a lot of inspiration out of the magazines. But one of my favorite salads that she made was olive oil, garlic powder, salt and pepper, tossed right before it hit the table. Delicious. We've already got a little acid with the lemon that we put on the kale, and we're going to do that simple dressing right before we eat. We're going to toss it together and have a delicious salad. Okay, so we're getting some nice char, nice brown. On our peppers and onions. Beautiful. All we've got to do to finish this dish is add in our tofu. Well, this is already seasoned, and we seasoned the peppers and onions when we put them down. Got big pieces, just break them up a little more. Some people use a potato masher if you want them to be a little bit finer. Like a little bit of chunk to it. There you go. Vegan peppers and eggs. We're going to toast up some rolls to make our sandwiches. We're going to let that sit for a bit while we finish up our salad. As I mentioned in my first video, I tend to make my own vinaigrette. It's so simple, it's so fast. This is old school. This is how my Aunt Dot dressed a salad for us in the 70s when we were little kids, and I love it. It's olive oil. It's probably a quarter cup. Salt, about a teaspoon. Plenty of fresh ground pepper. And simple garlic powder. And a good dose. Going across once and back across a second time and one more time. A good dose of garlic powder. It mixes with the oil, clings to the vegetables, and then we toss. It is so simple, so economical, and I promise you, delicious. As I said, my favorite salad dressing when I was a kid. And there's our salad. So we're going to put our sandwiches together, and I like a nice toast on a roll. I like it softened and warm. So we're just going to cut the rolls open, got a little olive oil in the pan, and we're going to toast these up for our sandwiches. Okay, we've got a nice tight toast on the rolls. We're going to load it up with vegan peppers and eggs. And we have brunch. A simple, delicious kale salad with Aunt Dot's dressing and peppers and eggs. No animals were harmed in the making of this lunch.